We have a fantastic session. We're going to talk about the key thing for those of us in the room who live in Asia, about unlocking the promise of Asia. And Duncan Lord is going to take us through that panel. Duncan, you're on.
Let's hope this is working okay. Thank you very much, John. Just to introduce myself very briefly, I live in Toronto. I work at RGA, have been there for many years, and I now head up what we call our Global Accounts division. So looking after the fascinating, multi-dimensional complexities of some of our multinational clients. I'm going to moderate the session today, and I'm delighted to have this group with me. And maybe I'll just ask you each, starting with you, Emma, to introduce yourselves and your organization.
I will. Morning, everybody. I'm Emma Loynes. I'm the Chief Executive Officer of Lloyds Asia and the Country Manager for Lloyds Singapore. Been in the industry a long time, Duncan, about 30 years. And my role in Singapore is around running the ecosystem, the platform for our syndicates and our service companies to operate and write business in Asia.
Thank you. Mark?
Hi, my name is Mark Okubo, the General Manager for International Affairs of Nippon Life Insurance Company, the largest life insurance company in Japan. And I'm also called a CEO, but don't be confused with my president. I'm Chief Entertainment Officer. So I have been developing the policies issues on regulation, accounting, and sustainability. Also, I serve as the project director for Music for SDGs, using the entertainment actually to promote United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Rob Shimmick, and I am the CEO of Boltec, and we are a little baby insurtech, homegrown here in Singapore, operating today in 38 markets across 4 continents, North America, Europe, Asia, and Africa. Our real claim to fame is that twice in the last week, in the Asian continent and in North America, we were named InsurTech of the Year. So very pleased to be with you, and thank you for having us.
I have to tell you, I'm a little bit concerned that this may get a bit out of hand because we've got Rob with his shoes. I'm sure you'll hear more about his shoes later, but Mac also has apparently a habit when he's on stage of bringing out musicians and starting to dance and so forth. He was just recently on stage at London Fashion Week, he was telling me. So we'll see how we go here. I think the topic we have is about unlocking the promise of Asia, which is an enormous broad canvas. And I think a number of the things we'll pick up are probably already mentioned in that excellent session already this morning. Maybe just a couple of obvious comments to this group. Asia has 4 billion people. Apparently the average age of those people in the continent is actually 31 years old, which is quite telling to me. More interestingly, 55% of the population of the global consumer class, so 2.2 billion people, are represented in Asia. Many of them are in India and China. But even if you take Indonesia, which is a high population country, obviously, from 2020 to 2030, 76 million people will join that consumer class. So there is no shortage of opportunity here. Another interesting kind of comment about digitalization, I was reading something recently from McKinsey that was saying that the COVID-19 pandemic accelerated digital transformation. I don't know how you measure that exactly. Globally by about 7 years, but in Asia by 10. So things are happening here. The e-commerce industry in Asia represents $2.4 trillion of activity. 78% of that takes place on mobile phones. So I'm preaching to the converted here, obviously, but there's no shortage of opportunities in Asia, and we'd love to get into some of that here today. More as a teaser, perhaps, for the rest of the conference, actually. So there's a number of other sessions later. Sustainability follows us, and we'll touch on that perhaps briefly later. But let's start with growth, and I'll ask you to start with this, Emma. Coming from Lloyds, which is not short of innovation or change, Where do you see the growth opportunities broadly in Asia, and what is Lloyd's doing about that?
So as you have said, Asia is a hugely growing market, and the demand for insurance protection has continued to grow. We look at the drivers for that around things like urbanisation, the growth of industrial centres, as you said, particularly around investment in digitisation. And it's really important that as a sector we look at the evolving risk needs of our customers, and we're able to provide products and risk transfer solutions that address those. And if you just look at the kind of growth in premiums, for example, since 2013, we've seen a circa 80% growth in premiums in Asia. So you're looking at almost 13 billion Singapore dollars. Asia Pacific's become a real hub. We've got 12 of the kind of key global insurers here. The broker market has doubled. We've got 148 brokers. And this is against a backdrop with Asia is a very diverse region. So there's not a homogenous approach to it. There's different regional variances, emerging risk trends, and consumer demands against a backdrop of kind of different regulations. All of that we have to consider. But I think the key thing as an industry is around that ability to respond to those trends, to be able to be innovative, to be able to look at releasing new products, adapting products. And actually, if you look at some of the kind of key challenges we've got that investment in digitalisation means that we've got heightened cyber risk, for example. So we can see that cyber is a really growing class. At Lloyd's Asia, it's one of our fastest growing classes. We're seeing a great deal of investment in capability and underwriting expertise, but we've got to pair that again with looking at things like modelling and data and analytical tools. We're seeing in the broker market a big increase in client demand for data and analytics and sort of digital products. And I think what we need to look at is in the insurance sector to be able to look at the pace of the development of those sorts of models, particularly for things like cyber, because the maturity in Asia is behind other markets. And I think the sort of final sort of point to make around that is also around looking at innovation and the ability to look at some of the emerging cyber risk management tools, for example. We're seeing some fantastic Singaporean companies like Protos Labs come in, build phenomenal cybersecurity products, and we need to look at how we bring that into our value chain to be able to provide greater protection for our consumers, and to be able to look at how industry and the insurance sector and government bodies come together, because cyber is such a significant risk that no one sort of sector can challenge and can face those challenges alone. So it's about scalability and sharing of knowledge and data.
Thank you. Mac, do you want to respond to that in terms of growth?
Yes, actually, in terms of we are representing the long-term institutional investors. The life insurance company have a long-term vision. So we receive money from the customers, and we pay back only in 20 years or maybe 30 years. So in that sense, we have a responsibility actually to support the community. So in that sense, I think the growth can be seen in that area. So I saw a lot of different Asian economies, but still there are a lot of room for improvement. So you talk about protection gap. This is a source for the growth. So we have been working on international standards. I used to work for the IIS Secretariat for 4 years and 3 months until 2006. So we have been working on the development of international standards for 2 decades. But important thing is that we can have international standards so that we can communicate each other, but you have to reflect the diversity that exists in different countries. For example, I say that the perfect analogy for this is English with different English accents. So English can allow us to communicate, but the accent can maybe capture the differences. Such as Americans would say, American English is absolutely important, but the French said, yes, of course, in France we speak with a very beautiful French accent. Yeah, of course, in Germany we speak English, a very clear German accent, but in UK you're supposed to speak Queen's English. In Singapore we say la and en la. In Thailand we speak English with very sweet Thai accent. In Japan we speak with no intonation. In China, a lot of people speak Chinese accent, but in India, if you count the number of people, the Indian linguists the most use English planet. Thank you very much. But we haven't finished the panel, so this shows how implement international standards. Thank you.
Rob, I'm going to hand it over to you.
Follow that, Rob.
If you want to follow that.
What in the world do I say following that? Mac, very well. So I think the only other thing that I'll add is that we have a general philosophy of, in order to help make the growth really happen here in Asia, it's going to be teamwork. Even as an industry, it's a bit about collaboration, cooperation. We use a phrase called co-opetition, where we have to be friendly competitors, but we've got to cooperate with one another. And so the Boltec philosophy, and probably the reason that we've been successful as an insurtech, is we're not here trying to disrupt the Asian insurance market. We're here trying to enable the Asian insurance market. So we are partners with over 200 insurance carriers around the world, and we are reaching customers not one at a time, but thousands at a time, millions at a time, through our distribution partners who have access to those customers, but don't necessarily know how to get those customers the protection that they need or that they're looking for in the first place. And so that's our role. We're a glue that's trying to help make the industry fit together in a much more collaborative way. And I think that will unlock a lot of the promise of growth here in Asia.
So if I can just pick up on that, if you take your business, is it just a question of scalability for you growth, just more of the same? Or where next? I mean, and how do you keep up with other joining?
I love that question. So scalability is of course the king. It's really interesting. We're a tiny little baby. This company was built just over the course of the last 3.5 years, but I'll give you a little bit of a context of what we do. We now run an insurance exchange. Think of us like you could say an aggregator, where we are really a technology-driven insurance exchange, matching buyers and sellers of insurance. And in the past 12 months, we've quoted over $60 billion of premium, not for ourselves, but for our balance sheet partners who are trying to access a base of customers. We're the technology that fits between the insurer and the distribution partner. And for us, the more that we can gather supply, insurance carriers who have great product, with demand, the distribution partners, our ecosystem partners who want that, the better. Because we don't have to keep rebuilding this technology. And once we have connected a carrier or a product capability once into our system, we can make it available to everyone that we work with in the distribution space. Now, of course, you can tell from my wonderful accent, I live here in Singapore. You might be able to tell that Mac might have given it away. I don't have a Singaporean accent, but I live in Singapore because if you want to make this stuff work, you've actually got to really submerge yourself into this insurance community here and also into the entire ecosystem of what it takes to make sure that you really understand what the customer's trying to do in the first place. So generally speaking, yes, it's about scale, and can we plug this in? And our greatest enemy, by the way, is the DIY, do-it-yourself mentality that comes from everyone wanting to have to do all of this soup to nuts themselves. And if we just work with one another, just collaborate a little bit, we can be that much more successful.
not going to let you dominate the whole meeting, Robert. I did want to just keep with you for a second and just switch a little bit to innovation and technology. The previous session touched on AI quite significantly. There was the Bletchley Accord or agreement last week signed in London of the major economies of the world trying to set up a framework for AI. What does AI mean for you in your business, and how do you see that kind of developing?
I wouldn't want to repeat any of the comments that Andreas made earlier or that Bijan made earlier, because I thought they were right on the money. So I'll maybe just add a couple of thoughts to it. First of all, generally speaking right now, you hear people getting obsessed with generative AI. You can even remove generative and just say AI, because predictive analytics, when you go on Netflix, and it's predicting for you the next show you're interested in seeing. That's not generative AI, that's predictive AI, and we're using that and have been using that extensively for a long time. It's just that it will continue to evolve and maybe really be kind of kick-started through the generative AI world that you're seeing, where tools like ChatGPT grew to 100 million users in just a course of months, which is an amazing thing. Imagine the scale we could get if we could grow to 100 millions of anything in the course of just months. So what I would say to you is maybe 3 quick thoughts, and they do hit a little bit on some of the comments that were made earlier. The first one is that in general, the AI world is here to stay. And it's really important to embrace it, but I'd say what happens is people get enamored with tools. Forget the tool, focus on the problem. What are you trying to solve? Because if you know what you're trying to solve, I guarantee you can find a tool that will help you solve it. Where people get it backward is they're saying, oh, I see a great tool. Now I'm going to go try to find a problem to solve with that tool. I don't agree with that. I think you'll get lost in the sauce if that's the approach that you take. The second comment that I would make is for everyone who hears the phrase of, oh my gosh, I'm worried that my job will be overtaken and I'll lose my job because of AI. My reaction to that is a comment that, again, I think you heard a little bit earlier, which is your job won't be taken by AI. Your job will be taken by someone who knows how to use AI. That is something we can all control. Learn it, embrace it, and figure out how to use it. You do those things, which is what we are trying to do in our organization, and you will succeed. But you don't need to do all of these things yourself. I'll bring you back to my macro comment, which is be part of an ecosystem. When I went to the same school as Bijan, the University of Pennsylvania, we had a wonderful phrase, which was, you've got to cooperate to graduate. If this industry is going to graduate to the next stage, we must figure out how to cooperate. Work in teams, work as a group. When you don't, you'll never be as powerful as you are when you work as part of a broader group.
And Mac, maybe the same question to you from the life insurance specific perspective, AI.
So I see some Chinese-speaking people here. So AI means love in Chinese or in Japanese. So I define the life insurance as the business to transfer the love from one generation to another. So in order to use AI, we make sure that we embed the love into the use of AI. So we can have a fundamental business paradigm using the technology access to people to keep people happy and healthier. So I still remember that I got the job interview in 1980s when the bubble economy was in Japan, and I explained that the life insurance is not death insurance. We have to support the life of the people. So I tell them that the insurance industry is an information industry which can help the other people to keep healthy. And then just like I was talking about, creating the social media network among the customers so that they can communicate each other, and entertainment is a part of the life. So we are doing my job, because we have to have a very happy life. And digital technology will change completely how we can contribute on the people and the community. So I think that this is very important. So we are just maybe seems to be competing each other, but actually we are collaborating each other. If you see from the moon, because we just have a different customers with different preference. We have our own customers, they have their own customer, and we are collaborating in filling the protection gap. So this is very important matters. So we are all excellent in many different ways. Some people are intelligent, or some people who can analyze, who can do mathematics, who can memorize things, who are knowledgeable, or maybe who can sing, who can dance, who are good looking. I'm not talking about me, you know? I'm talking about a different feature that exists not for you, but for the society, for the community. So as a life insurance sector, I'm willing to support this community different way from those people, but we are collaborator. Thank you.
And maybe, Emma, I don't want to give everybody the same question, but I will ask you to talk a little bit about AI from a Lloyd's perspective, if there's anything you wanted to add.
It's really interesting, Duncan, because I've been listening to this conversation, and I think we are in, as a commercial insurance sector in Asia, in the best position to take advantage of the investment in digitisation, but we have to accept the fact that in terms of consumer experience, distribution of products, we are not in anywhere the same space as the life industry or the space that Rob plays in. And that is something that we have to address. And I think that one of the key things we have to look at is basically understanding, particularly for things like, as I talked about, cyber and climate risk, how we can use data and modelling to kind of feed into that product piece, but then leads into across the whole value chain, including the kind of distribution of product. But we are not nearly as mature as we need to be, and I think that is, one of our key challenges. And if you look at there was a survey done recently of participants, insurance participants in the Asian region, and over 35% cited that digital transformation and improved consumer experience was their number one priority for 2024. So obviously the willingness is there and the desire to do it, but it's something that we have to address, otherwise we're going to get left behind as a sector.
So more investment required.
More investment required, absolutely.
You switch gears then and talk about product, because you touched on it there a little bit. From our point of view at RJ, we work in the life and health space, obviously. We see Asia as a very creative, innovative area across the whole region, actually, from a product development point of view. But what about from your perspective? Are there gaps in the Lloyd's world, and where do you see that moving?
So yeah, and I think it's a great question, and Lloyd's is known for innovation. I mean, Lloyd's is obviously a very old establishment, over 300 years old, and has been at the forefront of innovation for many, many years. And about 5 years ago, it was recognised that we needed to kind of take that, important ability to convene individuals and looking at the need for innovation in the industry, and so the Lloyd's Lab was set up. The Lloyd's Lab is unique in the fact that it's an ecosystem where insurtechs apply and come in, but they get access to over 100 syndicates, over 300 brokers, and a really broad range of market participants in order to help them to develop and commoditize their product. So it was recognised, as you say, that Asia is a significant opportunity as a market. So in 2023, we've had a specific Asia theme around climate and sustainability and cyber. And that started in September, and really excitingly, we had over 124 applicants, 26 of which were from the APAC region, and we've got 3 participants now who have got through to the kind of the final stage and are participating in this cohort, and 2 of them are based in Singapore, and one of those is Protos Labs, who I referenced before. The reason we have this insurtech setup is because it's the place where people can come where they are able to look at addressing known product gaps and known opportunities in the market. And I think if you look, we've talked about cyber a lot, but also climate is another prime example. And if you look also at Lloyd's has recently announced that it's partnered with Moody's And that is a proof of concept around being able to track carbon greenhouse gas emissions for managing agent and syndicates across their portfolios and their underwriting portfolios and investment portfolios, with an ability to be able to respond to regulatory reporting, but also that ability to look and understand truly how your portfolio is performing is fundamental. So I think it's really exciting. There's a lot of opportunity out there.
Mac, in terms of the life insurance space with regard to product, there seems to be a shift somewhat towards protection from the investment side of things. Do you think that's here to stay? We're seeing more health developments, health insurance developments and so forth, products accessing that. What's your view on that?
Yes, so when I entered the company, so in 1980s, the most popular products by far was the single payment endowment policy in Japan. So people used to buy life insurance because they love money. But afterwards, so the situation has changed, the interest rate went down, so it's no more attractive either for customers or for companies. So now they are shifted to the protection products, so the people buy insurance because they love family members and partners. So just like, and then we are trying to develop some health products, also services. The nature of the products has been tremendously changed, as I mentioned. For example, we are not competing with a rate of return by the saving products, but we are competing each other by the quality of the service we provide. The insurance industry is an industry to remove anxiety from the heart of the people. So we can have a good system, having a very innovative strategic alliance with formerly irrelevant industry so that we can develop, for example, what happens if there's a dementia. So we try to keep the customers not suffering dementia, but once it is dead, we can support the family members or maybe the saving account, which is under the name of those who have a dementia. So there are a lot of dimensions that we can work on. So this is kind of the way that we are competing each other. It's a good thing because by competing, we enhance the quality of life of the people. This is kind of ultimate macro objective of the insurance sector.
Okay, thank you. Rob, I'm going to change the subject a little bit and stay under the heading of innovation and technology. Talk a little bit about ecosystems and embedded insurance. I know you're in the forefront of that. Maybe you could just share with the audience exactly how you would define embedded insurance and what next? And maybe just as corollary, are you product agnostic? You don't care what the products are that go through your platform?
So first of all, just to make sure that everyone really can appreciate what we do, I think if I had to summarize it in one word, I would do as you just said, Duncan, which is I'd say, just think of embedded insurance. The problem with the word embedded, or even the phrase embedded insurance, is people have a preconceived notion about what those words even mean. So we work on 4 different continents involving ourselves in embedded insurance, but our product, our capability in each of those continents is extremely different, and yet very much the same. So what do I mean? In North America, one of the most successful direct marketing advertisers of insurance is Progressive Insurance. They battle it out day to day with Geico. And they recognize that their customers want more from them than the product that is their main core skill. Their main core skill is automobile insurance. They are an awesome insurer of the auto. But they recognize that the customer probably parks their automobile at their home, and so they want to offer the auto and home bundle, but they don't want to take homeowners insurance on their own balance sheet. And so we bring, embedded inside of the Progressive journey, we bring the ability for Progressive to offer an auto and home bundle. They're offering the Progressive auto policy, and we are bringing a panel of homeowners insurers who are offering the homeowners policy. It looks and feels and runs like it is the journey of Progressive. So we are embedded inside of Progressive's journey. That's what we do in North America. In Asia, for example, we love the telco space. We absolutely love it. Everyone in Asia walks around with one, or like me, maybe two, cell phones, if you possibly can, because that's actually our link to the world. You might have a different living situation in Asia than you do in many other countries, where you're living with your family and your way of getting to the rest of the world is through that device. And so in that case, we embed our capabilities with a telco that says, at the moment you buy your cell phone, you can buy protection for the cell phone. We make that simple, easy, affordable, and digital. But again, you don't know Boltec. You just know the partners that we work with. You know your telco. You know Progressive. You know our partner's name, but you don't know us, and we don't care. In Philly, we wear a T-shirt that says, everyone hates us and we don't care. So we don't care that everyone doesn't know us as a household name. It's okay, because what we're trying to do is we're trying to bring the enabling capability. And then what we do is we define what is embedded insurance depending on the market that we operate in. In Europe, you'll find us working with hearing aids. You might find us working with your eyeglasses. You might find us working with your cell phone. But that is usually the beginning of our journey, not the end of our journey. So a lot of people have a preconceived notion that embedded insurance is like selling you a package of chewing gum, although you can't do that here in Singapore, but in other countries, selling you the packet of chewing gum right at the cash register. That's not the way we think of embedded insurance. Even when we're selling you something at the exact point of need, that's actually the first transaction we want to do with you. It's not the last. If I can protect your cell phone, I can protect all of your home electronics. If I can protect all of your home electronics, I can protect the place where you keep them, which is your apartment. If I can protect your apartment, I can protect the motorcycle or the car that you park at your apartment. I can protect your travel needs, etc. So you get the concept, but this is the beginning of a journey. And the more that we work within that journey, the more we can connect into other players in the ecosystem, other insurance carriers, other distribution partners, and even very unlikely partners. One of our best partners in Asia is, in fact, the life insurance industry. Our sister company, FWD, is a great partner for us. So whether it's P&C or life, it doesn't matter. If we think of it as a end-to-end, multi-stop journey.
Thank you. Thanks, Rob. Maybe I'll just take a moment to remind you, if you would like to ask questions to the group, we'll take a few minutes at the end. And I think, John, you can just type the questions through the app under this session. There's a Q&A section there. Maybe just move to a kind of final theme, which we wanted to touch on, which is sustainability and inclusion. And just to introduce this, I just wanted to promote, I suppose, a little bit some work that RJ's been doing. Some of you, or I hope most of you, will have got a teaser email with some of the material that the various sponsors of the forum have been working on recently. And in our case, we referenced a global mental health survey that we conducted earlier this year. So just talking about mental health in the context of insurance for a moment, it's interesting that, I didn't know this actually, mental health conditions are about the most common global health conditions globally. Almost 1 billion people have some degree of mental health condition. And they also account for nearly 1/3 of the total years lived with disability. But there's a stigma often attached with mental health. WHO estimates governments spend just over 2% of their health budget on mental health, so not very much at all. In terms of our survey, 80-odd% of the participants did say that mental health was becoming or is already a top priority for them. 57% noted there was an additional demand for mental health-related products and services in the last couple of years, presumably spurred on by the pandemic, the fact that access to healthcare and wait times in certain medical systems has been stretched to breaking point. And in some areas, but not globally, there is a slightly reduced stigma on mental health. I think it's generally felt that the insurance industry is fairly cautious about risk assessment of mental health. It's not easy to calibrate sometimes. Although most participants felt that the actual existing covers we have are reasonable, the access to those covers may be the problem. And so a number of companies recognize they've updated their underwriting philosophies regarding health in the last couple of years. Finally, and maybe interestingly to me, 50% of the companies we talk to have actual mental health specialists on their staff involved in the value chain of their insurance regarding mental health. So it could be underwriting, could be claims, could be product design, etc. I will say that of the globe that we canvassed, Asia Pacific probably lags a little bit behind in this area. Maybe that's partly because there's less disability income products throughout this region, which is obviously a core product that is affected by mental health, often in terms of cause of disability. But also there is potentially a greater stigma here, quite honestly, on mental health, and that may need to be something we break through if we're going to look at this. So just one aspect of inclusion from my point of view. I'll start with you, Mac, on this, though. Sustainability or inclusion, why should we care? What does it mean to you?
Thank you. So I think the sustainability is definitely the core business for insurance sector. So maybe I can share some serious part of my work. So I have been chairing serving as a Sherpa for the APFF. It's the Asia Pacific Financial Forum established by APEC finance ministers. And my work stream is actually insurance and health retirement income network. And then actually promoting the high-level recommendation actually to work on the insurance companies' long-term role to support sustainable, resilient, and inclusive development of Asia Pacific Economic Cooperation, APEC. So, and I have been doing this for 10 years. So this year is kind of 10-year anniversary of my work with the APEC on this matter. So we had a lot of recommendation, for example, like a regulation accounting. You talk about IFRS 17 later, but we want to make sure that the regulatory requirements, reporting requirements have a long-term orientation. So instead of just look good today, but we should have policies which allow us to be good in the long run with the growth opportunities, something like that. We have been saying that. For sustainability, of course, Asia, we have a lot of sustainability kind of topics, and Nippon Life served as the lead sponsor for UN PRI in person in Tokyo. We spent 1 week talking about responsible investing. So this is very important matter. But when I was invited as a panelist during the World Bank IMF conference, I brought the little book of my daughter. My daughter is 8 years old today, so you may be surprised, but this is not the point I'm trying to make today. So actually, this book is about North Wind and Sun. So North Wind and Sun in the Aesop story. So they are competing each other whether sun or North Wind are more powerful. Try to remove the coat of the gentleman. And then the North Wind blow winds. Just like I see some regulatory requirements like North Wind, but the man was trying to resist this, and he couldn't make it. But Sunshine just removed the coat voluntarily by this man. So we are trying to take this approach in Asia, like a sun, the system of sun. So this is very important matter. And when I said this to European authority, they are telling me, they are challenging me that, oh, you are talking about anti-ESG activities in the US, like approach of sun. And I said, no, that's south wind. So we need to have a solar system here in Asia Pacific. That's why I'm using music, movies, fashion show. We create movies to educate people on SDGs. We have some scenarios to promote role of insurance. So if you're interested, let me know.
I'm just conscious of the time here, but Emma, I wanted to ask you a little bit about talent, actually, in terms of sustainability. Do you have any comments on the talent pool in our industry in Asia? And the previous group talked about this at the end as well, how we continue to attract the best talent.
It's a really pressing issue. It's been described in Asia currently as a kind of talent war. I think there's a couple of points I've made. We need to look at what a fit for future workforce looks like in terms of the talent we need to bring in. So we've talked a lot about the need for data and digitization to address the kind of complex risk landscape we've got, Duncan. Therefore, yes, we need to keep building technical capability, but we also need to attract a different range of skills and capabilities into our organizations so that we can match that kind of technical and data skill together. I think equitability of workforce is a massive thing that we need to address. We have to accept that we are really underrepresented as an industry in terms of people from different socioeconomic backgrounds, different abilities. That is critical to our success as an industry because that diversity of thought and skill is going to allow us to innovate and to genuinely kind of face into the challenges we've got. And I think my final comment is insurance is at the heart of everything that is important in society. And we need to do a much better job of articulating to young talent that's coming into the organisation about the societal role of insurance and particularly how they can get involved in that, how creating workplaces, we talked a lot about flexibility and hybrid working, but I think personally it's about creating workplaces and employee experiences where people can develop, they can see clear career progression, but they can also feel that they're contributing to the kind of societal and economic demands of the country that they're operating in. We have a perception problem in this industry. We need to address that, and I think Rob talked about this. It's about teamwork and collaboration and convening. Look at what Rob does, look at what Matt does. It's, we joked last night, the medium of dance and music to attract more people into the industry, fantastic. Or, having people like Rob and his team talking to young talent. It's a brilliantly rewarding, diverse career. And all of us in here, I hope, would agree. And so there is a lot more that we can do, but the power is in that convening collaboration.
I guess, just to pick up on that, like many of us, perhaps, I'm an actuary in the life and health reinsurance sector. Trying to explain that role to my kids has been quite a challenge over the years. Yeah. But actually, COVID was, in a way, an opportunity. I mean, my organization, it's a global life and health reinsurer. We paid something like $2.5 billion of claims during COVID. That's quite yep. serious, certainly for us. And that's where the rubber hits the road, I think, because yep. it really is a meaningful thing. John, I know we've got a few minutes left if there are any questions from the floor.
Question time. What a great panel. And the questions are, where does cybersecurity stack up as a strategy in Asia growth strategy? Indicatively, what percentage of your budget is allocated towards the management of cyber risk?
Who would like to start that?
I will.
Okay,
yeah, I mean, it's a great question. The answer is, truly, I don't know the answer to how much of budgets is invested, but I would suspect it's not as much as it should be. I think if you look at things like the MAS as a regulator has done a huge amount to encourage evolution of cybersecurity products. We've got the cyber security certification, which rewards organisations that have really first-class cybersecurity measures and risk measures. So there is definitely appetite out there in order to develop great cybersecurity products that then can be fed into the distribution chain, so we can have kind of more competitive pricing and basically more enhanced and innovative products. But I would suspect that probably it needs to be more investment in the kind of the core risk tools and products to enable us to pass that benefit on to the end consumer.
Maybe I can jump in. So the cybersecurity arena might be a very good area for bringing the education and also the helping the corporations to fight against cyber attack. So again, no more the insurance company are the company which pay for the claims when it happens,
Yeah.
we are in the best position actually to teach them how to combat against the cybersecurity. It might be a very good growth if you see any gap here in Asia. So I think it's a good to attract the young talents.
So
For
you see it as
example,
an opportunity?
genius from the computer. So maybe an insurance company might be an attractive place to use their talents.
Yeah.
Something.
Yeah.
The same for earthquake recovery. Or so for us, we teach at the school how we can protect themselves when the earthquake occurs. This kind of new role might be a very promising area, I think.
I would agree with that. Education, absolutely critical. I think the other point I wanted to make is around the claims sector. It's about that ability to feed the kind of claims data back into the model so that you're getting that really robust structured data to enable you to kind of constantly sort of reevaluate how, as a product, cyber is performing. But you agree, education is absolutely fundamental.
It will be much cheaper for us rather than paying a lot of money.
Yeah, absolutely.
Rob, you must have some views on this.
Well, I'll just connect it even back to something I was saying earlier, which is this concept of collaboration and teamwork. There are really some excellent cyber capabilities and some cyber products that are out there, and we didn't create them. What we try to do is connect into them and help that connection be a connection into our distribution partners. If everyone feels like they have to build it themselves, this isn't going to happen. It's incumbent on all of us to invest the time to try to understand who's doing what and how can we help to make that capability available to the masses in a much greater way. So,
Which leads to our last question.
Which leads to, Rob mentioned, the carrier DIY mentality as slowing industry progress. What are some of the ways the industry can really get together to collaborate and make meaningful progress in the interest of their customers?
So I mentioned earlier that this concept of DIY. I would say the greatest competitor that Boltec faces in the world is the inertia of the existing ways haven't had this Boltec model ever as the way that they've done business in the past, and so therefore, if it's not broken, why fix it? I think we should first say, it's a little bit broken. It's at least a little bit broken, and we should always be willing, if we're going to try to improve, we should be always willing to try to fix it and to improve. I would just say that, stay on this cyber example that we were just talking about as a moment, but also you could use artificial intelligence as an example. We will never, and probably no one in this room, maybe someone in this room, one or two, will come up with a great cyber product, the great cyber product. But someone out there has, or someone out there has that capability. And the more that we spend our time trying to recreate exactly what they've just done, instead of trying to figure out how can we enable the capability that they've created, I think that we're just all retreading the exact same path. And how fast do you ever move if everyone's just retreading the path that the person in front of them tread? What if we could jump from one step to the next, but that will only ever happen if we invest the time, first of all, to understand what others are doing. And then second, if we flip this switch in our brain that says we didn't have to do everything ourselves. The more that you think about the progressive mindset that I gave to you in my example earlier, they're an auto insurer. Their main capability is not homeowners insurance, and yet they're one of the largest sellers of homeowners insurance in America. How? Because they're willing to switch their brain and to collaborate with others, and I think that's going to be what would unlock a big piece of the progress for the future of this industry.
I think, isn't it fair to say, I mean, cyber particularly is too significant a risk for one individual sector to challenge it, right? So, we've got to spread that risk across industry, insurers, government bodies, as Rob says, thereby, will be innovation and progress, but it is one of the fastest growing and emerging risks, so no one particular sector can be responsible for handling it. You won't get the progress you need.
Very good.
Thank you. Well, ladies and gentlemen, can you please thank the panel?